Good morning. I hope you all can hear me well. I am live streaming right now from the sort of first floor corridor at the hospital where my mother is. And I haven't spoken with you a lot about that, but in brief, she is in hospice now. So I only have a little moment with you. I stayed here last night by her bedside, and I'd like to get back up there shortly. But I think it's important for us today to recognize what an utter monster Donald Trump is. Monster. And I think we knew this. But yesterday, 2 nights ago, as you know, on Wednesday night, there was a terrible tragedy. A plane crash, or I should say, an military helicopter crashed into a passenger commercial airplane that was coming into Washington, D.C. And 67 beautiful people lost their lives. And instead of honoring them and paying respects, Donald Trump immediately thought that he would be blamed, which he should be. And so what he did is he went out there and did the most disgusting, racist thing imaginable. He went in to the White House press room and he spoke to the press and told them that he was going to blame the diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring practices in the government for this crash. And that is just crazy. I mean, it's crazy town if it weren't so racist and so predictable. It is primitive. It is like a primitive culture, any culture on this planet, deciding that and announcing that. The reason why we had an earthquake, or the reason why there was a volcano, a primitive tribe saying it's because we need to sacrifice virgin children. And then they go sacrifice them to please the gods. And let me tell you, that is not what causes earthquakes or fucking volcanoes. There is some science here. And the reality is, Donald Trump, before there's any investigation, is reaching and pointing to his scapegoat of choice and trying to sacrifice them on the altar of the angry mob that is MAGA. And I am disgusted by that. And I am disgusted, my friends, because I want to show you some of the victims of that crash. Some of the victims, as you know, were figure skaters, young figure skaters and older ones. Here's an example, a married pair of skating champions. Two young skaters and their mothers were among those killed in the mid-air collision over the Potomac. At that point, when this was reported, we didn't fully know everyone. And we are now getting the reporting. And I want to share with you my screen to show you some of the beautiful faces. And of course, the families have released these photos to the news media. I hope you can see what I am looking at. You know that there were 3 pilots of the military helicopter, 2 pilots of the plane. A total of 67 precious lives were lost. Look at these beautiful people. On the upper left is Jonathan Campos, the pilot. Ian Epstein, he is one of the flight attendants. His wife and family said he made everyone laugh on the airplane. We also have Gina Hahn, a skater, Samuel Lilly, Spencer Lane. In our bottom row, Christine Lane, Grace Maxwell, Vadim Namov, Azra Hussein Raza, Evgenia Shikoska. These were some folks who were also not just figure skaters from here, but also some, as I understand, from Russia. There was a law professor, someone who I did not know well, who was flying from Kansas to Washington, D.C. A Howard University law professor who I believe had gotten a new job somewhere, and people are obviously devastated. Each life, the loss of each life has a cascading effect. And Life is precious, whether you have lived out 85 years of your life. You deserve dignity in every moment of your life, or especially in a situation with a shocking tragedy. And we have not had this kind of airplane in air crash in years and years and years. I've heard different numbers. There have been tragedies before, but nothing of this magnitude since 2001. And in the United States, I'm not sure the exact date when there was a last in flight crash. And this is entirely preventable, as you know. And you know it is entirely preventable as well as I do because you probably have watched the news to see what has happened between Donald Trump having the Office of Personnel Management trying to get people to take this buyout, between the fact that also, in addition, the fact that we know air traffic controlling staff is low. And in this situation, the air traffic controller absolutely warned the helicopter. Do you see that plane? Like, get out of its way. And the Army helicopter did not. And part of the problem is there was one person that night doing that particular job for that pathway. There should have been two. It could have been prevented. This is a disgrace. And let me say, I think that I have specifically, I believe, and I don't have it here, but Pete Buttigieg made very clear what happened because you know he used to be the Secretary of Transportation. And Pete, I believe it was, he had made very clear when he was on Blue Sky, and I think I shared this yesterday, and I know that you have seen this, the havoc and the chaos that the Trump administration has wreaked on our government, including the Federal Aviation Administration. In fact, you may not know this, but there is no commissioner of the FAA because he was purged. And, you know, this is sadly what is happening while families grieve. And let me read to you and share with you right now on my screen what former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg said about this, because I want you to see this yourself. Okay, Pete Buttigieg, former Secretary of Transportation, and as Melissa Murray, law professor from New York, said, he wasn't on the real world or road rules. In other words, he's not a reality TV guy, just chosen for his presence the way Donald Trump chooses people. Here's what Pete said. Despicable. As families grieve, Trump should be leading, not lying. We put safety first, drove down close calls, gave air traffic control, grew air traffic control. I'm sorry, it had zero commercial airline crash fatalities out of millions of flights on our watch. Pete goes on. President Trump now oversees the military and the FAA. One of his first acts was to fire and suspend some of the key personnel who helped keep our skies safe. Time for the president to show actual leadership and explain what he will do to prevent this from happening again. And you won't believe it, or maybe you will, my friends, but Donald Trump was actually blaming Pete Buttigieg and claiming he was transportation secretary. Now, this is absolutely craven. Okay, and I have this for you here, right? It's totally craven. Now, I want to add now for you, and I want to share with you the actual video of President Scribbleface getting called out by Kaitlin Collins in the White House briefing room. And I am going to put this up. And as you know, I've made my promise to you guys that you'll never have to ever see his face or hear his voice. So I'm going to play it. I'm going to stop when his voice comes up, silence it, so you don't have to hear. I'm doing my best right here in the cafeteria at the hospital. Here we go.
The 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think.
Okay. Now he says, and I'm going to silence him. No, I don't think so. Here he goes, you guys. I don't think we're the names of the people, you mean? Of the people that are on the plane? You think that's going to make a difference? And she said, hold on. She said, do you think, let me just tell you, be clear what Kaitlin said. She said, does it comfort their families that you are blaming DEI policies? And Donald is saying, why do you need the names of the people? Let's keep going. Are a group of people that who have lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you. I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. This is a reporter. There's another. Okay, so he insults her. And now let's hear the next part.
I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense.
Oh, sorry. I played it. He said, because I have common sense. Holy shit.
Okay. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
As the president came out here and was casting blame, one thing I noted was that there are still bodies being pulled from the water.
You heard that. There were still bodies being pulled from the water. I am old enough to remember that after every single countless school shooting in America, mass casualty involving essentially, the equivalent of, AK-47s or AR-15s, right? Semi-automatic weapons. When this happens, whether it started at Columbine, right? Or even the most recent tragedies, whether it be here in Wisconsin. I'm not in Wisconsin, but nearby. Of all these school in Texas, right? The kids at Parkland, I could go on and on. Every single time when people say we need gun control, the Republicans and the MAGAs say, too soon, pay your respects. And here Donald Trump, while the bodies were still being pulled from the water, was making false accusations against his scapegoat, DEI. It is utterly ridiculous. Now, my friends, it wasn't just him. Let me share another video with you. And this is, actually, let me hold on for 1 second. Let's save that for Crazy Town. What I want to remind you is here on Taub Live, here we Prism mates, Prism, do not take part in the lie. The simple step of a courageous individual is not to take part in the lie. In the biggest lie, no, the biggest lie is not the big lie about the election. The biggest lie is the racist ideology of white supremacy that is undermining our society, wreaking havoc, and that is what Donald Trump is representing. That is the big lie, and we may not perpetuate it. We have to call it out. And diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are there because of the racist presumption that people who have had power for a long time decide to, as a baseline, presume that just the virtue of, just by virtue of being perceived as white in our culture, you must be more qualified, more competent. Otherwise, how could someone, can you even imagine, how do we have a Secretary of Defense who is a unrepentant, raging alcoholic who has not gone into treatment, who has, has sexually assaulted through police accusations and ended up in a settlement where the woman cannot speak about it, where this guy shows up at work drunk, where he has run 2 nonprofits into the ground, and that is his only management experience, and he is perceived to be qualified for the job. Need I go on? So that is a lie, and we must fight it with all of our being. Now, I want to add that that we had several confirmation hearings yesterday, and unfortunately I cannot go into detail about them other than to say there were some very, very incredible moments. And I think there were several important ones. I think this one, I'm going to show you 2 of them. Ed Markey, senator from Massachusetts. Here's Markey calling out RFK Jr. for lying about his visit to Samoa and lying under oath. Let's play that.
You told my colleagues on the Senate Finance Committee that when you went to Samoa in June of 2019, it, quote, had nothing to do with vaccines. Will you confirm again today that the trip had nothing to do with vaccines?
My purpose in going down there had nothing to do with vaccines.
Well, I have in my hand a blog post in 2021 in which you say the anti-vaccine group Children's Health Defense, which you ran, offered to fund the purpose of the trip to Samoa. And in the same post, you state that the trip was ultimately arranged by an anti-vaccine activist. And during the trip, you met with an activist who later compared vaccine mandates to Nazi Germany.
So, were you lying then, Mr. Kennedy? Or are you lying now? Is that follow-up? Now, there is one more example that I want to share with you, and I think you may have seen this, and this is also a question for RFK Jr. Remember, he was on, I believe, for 2 days, and this is a question that came from, I know what state also Brooks is from. Hold on. Oh, right. Also, Brooks is Maryland Senator, our new Maryland Senator. And I want to share for you what she had to say to RFK, speaking of both anti-vaccine conspiracies and racism, all bundled together in an unqualified candidate. Let me share that with you right now.
Same vaccine schedule that's given to whites because their immune system is better than ours. Can you please explain?
Oh, okay, I need to actually back this up so you understand. The beginning of this, which we don't hear, is what RFK Jr. had recommended is that Black people in America should not get the same vaccine schedule that is given to whites. And she's asking me here to explain that. Let's play that.
The same vaccine schedule that's given to whites because their immune system is better than ours. Can you please explain what you meant?
There's a series of studies, I think most of them by Poland, that show that to particular antigens that blacks have a much stronger reaction. There's differences in reaction to different products by different races.
So I have 17 seconds left. Let me just ask you then. So what different vaccine schedule would you say I should have received? What different vaccine schedule should I have received?
I mean, the Poland article suggests that blacks need fewer antigens.
This is so dangerous.
You get the same measles vaccine.
Mr. Kennedy, with all due respect, that is so dangerous. Your voice would be a voice that parents would listen to. That is so dangerous. I will be voting against your nomination because your views are dangerous.
He's claiming it's science. One article from Poland. I don't even know which one he's talking about. He's not a scientist. This is complete quackery. And I wanted you to see that. And now, my friends, we can never miss, ever, Crazy Town, because it is a crazy flipping world out here. Let's go. Okay, I just abruptly did that. I'm sorry, I didn't slide that volume down a little slower. But here is my Crazy Town, something I promised you, which is, again, perpetuating the biggest lie possible, which is fomenting more racism in this country. This lie that somehow hiring practices to encourage broad representation and fairness in the workforce is what led to this crash, as opposed to a fucking helicopter not seeing a plane and not listening to air traffic control because they were understaffed. That seems obvious, but why wait for the report? And why not have an FAA commissioner? Didn't have one. Let's play this. This is the bullshit that they are spreading now on Fox News. Here we go. Crazy, crazy. Let me give you a little more crazy. It's crazy. Are you ready? Double crazy. Here we go.
Well, we don't know if DEI played a role in this incident. We do know that human error did. And DEI is a policy that exacerbates human error. We need to cut out every policy.
What? There is no evidence that that is true. And I don't even want to go through and tell you why that is utterly racist. I mean, I think you know, and I cannot believe people are getting on television and saying this. It's disgusting. Let's continue.
That allows for anything where we maximize the potential for human error.
Yeah, well, look, we've talked about this over and over again. President Trump is going to keep America safe. He is going to do everything in his power to make sure that our citizens, no matter where they live, no matter where they are.
Okay. George Orwell, could you just come out of your grave and witness what the fuck is going on in 2025? Because I want to rename your damn book and rewrite it. Donald Trump just under his watch, under his administration, was the most deadly plane crash that we have seen in ages in America. Completely preventable. Happens right after he gets rid of the FAA. He says we need to not staff the woefully understaffed air traffic controllers. He wants to get rid of them. He's offering buyouts and saying, let's get rid of these people in the government. This happens on his watch, inside of the same month of his inauguration. And they get Katie Britt to go on air saying he wants to keep people safe. I am sorry. I don't buy this newspeak. This is mendacious. This is malevolent. And this is moronic. And we will call it out every day of the week. And it's mostly, my friends, crazy town. And I will see you back here on Monday. Thank you.